Warren's man sprang to the side, and silent as a shadow Mr. Ambrose took his place. I tried to move so that I could get a look at the door when it opened, but Warren held me back. Not yet, he hissed. Wait until he opens the door. Steps approached from inside the room. I waited, counting my breaths in a futile attempt to calm myself. Suddenly I was wishing that I had changed back into trousers and a shirt before coming up here. Say what you will about the degradation and annoyance involved in pretending to be a man, it certainly gives you more freedom of movement. The door opened. Mr. Ambrose nodded to whomever was on the other side. Hello, Simmons. I heard a startled yelp, and then the door moved to close so fast my eye hardly caught the movement. Mr. Ambrose caught it, though. His foot darted forward and wedged itself between door and doorframe. He gripped the doorknob, the desperate man inside still struggling to push the door closed, and thrust it back with surprising strength. The door flew open. Then he stepped into the room. Now. Warren let go of my arm and I darted forward. I was in the room even before the 6 other men. Mr. Ambrose was standing over a deathly pale Simmons, who lay on his back on the carpet. Taking an empty wine glass from a table beside him, Mr. Ambrose raised it to the man on the floor in a mock toast. Bottoms up. I'm afraid I haven't brought any wine, but I have brought a few of my friends. The glass sailed out of his hand and crashed against the wall, splintering into 1,000 pieces. Simmons twitched, but Mr. Ambrose's face remained calm as an iceberg. Actually, it's not just the bottoms who are up, he mused. It's the game, too. His voice suddenly became hard, as impenetrable as a mountain of granite. Where is it, Simmons? How, stuttered the figure on the floor. How I found you. Mr. Ambrose threw a look over his shoulder, and for a moment his dark eyes held mine, filled with an expression that was difficult to interpret. That is none of your concern, he answered, returning his gaze to Simmons. I will ask the questions, not you. And no, sir, Simmons mumbled, his eyes darting right and left. I mean, how can I ever thank you? Thank you for coming after me, I mean. There were these men. They entered your office and took some things and forced me to come with them and... Simmons. Yes, sir. If you utter another lie, you are a dead man. Mr. Simmons' mouth remained open, but there didn't come one more sound out of it. He seemed to have gotten the message. Without paying any great deal of attention to the man on the floor, as if he were just another speck of dust, Mr. Ambrose went over to the bed and flipped open the suitcase that lay there. It contained a few neatly folded shirts and trousers. With a flick of his cane, Mr. Ambrose threw them aside. An involuntary gasp escaped me as hundreds of banknotes appeared beneath the clothes. I couldn't make out the numbers from where I stood, but I didn't really need to be able to tell that this was a lot of money. More than I had ever seen in my life. All for a piece of paper. What sort of paper could be worth that much? Strange baggage for an abducted man, Mr. Ambrose stated, calmly. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a sudden movement. When I turned my head I saw that Simmons was on his feet again and heading for the window. At first I thought he had gone insane or something and wanted to jump to his death, but then I saw that there was a building outside. A building with a flat roof. No, get him. I sprang after him, trying to grab him. Unluckily, I forgot I was wearing a crinoline, got tangled up in the legs of a chair and fell to the ground with an unceremonious crunching sound. The last thing I saw was Simmons jumping out of the window, then my head slammed into the carpet and suddenly my eyes, mouth and nose were filled with fluffy dustiness. Crap. I lay there for a few moments, seething and breathing in dust motes. Somebody cleared his throat above me. I looked up to see Mr. Ambrose extending his hand towards me. Do you need a hand? Reluctantly I reached out and grasped his hand. Don't ask me why, but for some reason I had expected his hand to be cold and hard, just like his personality. It wasn't. Oh. Don't misunderstand me, it was hard all right, but it also was warm and full of life. It felt strangely good, considering the rest of him was so undoubtedly bad. With a sharp tug, he pulled me to my feet, and for a moment we stood very, very close to one another. I was standing again, and yet he didn't let go of my hand, and I didn't let go of his. Then I heard a triumphant cry from outside. Oh my God, Simmons. Roughly, I pushed Mr. Ambrose out of the way and sprang to the window. From behind me, I heard a hollow thud and an, ouch, but I didn't care. He's getting away. Now let me tell you, a hoop skirt is not the right kind of attire for climbing through open windows. But I was about to try anyway when a hand closed around my arm. A hard, familiar hand. Don't, Mr. Ambrose commanded. I looked back at him, confusion written all over my face. What do you mean, don't? He's getting away. Yes, he is. We have to catch him. I appreciate your concern for the pursuit of justice, Mr. Linton, he said, as cool as a cucumber. Even though you did not really have to be so keen on that pursuit as to push me on my backside. However, we don't want to go after Simmons just yet. But, we, continued Mr. Ambrose unperturbed, taking his old but very efficient-looking pocket watch out of his waistcoat pocket, have to go after him in exactly 1 minute and 27 seconds. Ha! I stared at him, flabbergasted. He, for his part, completely ignored me. His eyes focused on the watch, he simply stood there, waiting. I got edgier and edgier with every passing second. What the heck was going on? Mr. Ambrose, shouldn't we go? No. But, single quote. No, be quiet. Blast it, I won't be quiet. I balled my hands into fists. This was insane. I've gone to a lot of trouble to find this thief, sir. And now we're just standing around here while he makes good his escape, and we are waiting for your 1 minute and 27 seconds to pass. Actually, he said with another look at his watch, it's 1 minute and 3 seconds now. What the hell do I care? It makes no sense for us to just be standing around here. On the contrary, Mr. Linton, it makes a great deal of sense. Now be quiet and wait. I was fuming, but what could I do? He was my master, not the other way around. I had to do what he said. That's what I got paid for, even if it didn't make any sense. With a snap, Mr. Ambrose shut his watch, and for the first time, I clearly saw the design on the lid. The sight struck me like a thunderbolt. It was a family crest. The same family crest I had seen on the pink letters from the mysterious lady. All right, it's time. Gripping the windowsill, he vaulted out of the open window. In quick succession, Warren and the others followed him. I just stood there, trying to shake off my shock. What did this mean? Was Mr. Ambrose really a nobleman? But why wouldn't he use his? I shook my head. No, not now. I didn't have time for this now. Unfreezing, I started to follow the others through the window. It took me 2 or 3 attempts, and I probably broke half of the crinoline beneath my dress into pieces, but finally I managed to squeeze myself through the opening. With a crash of breaking hoops, I landed on the neighboring building. Very graceful, Mr. Ambrose commented from beside me. Now hurry up, we have a thief to catch. By the time I had managed to get to my feet, he was already striding along the roof towards the distant figure of Simmons. Striding, not running. Simmons, however, was running. Oh boy, how he was running. He already was off the flat roof of this building and onto the next, built right beside it. What was Mr. Ambrose thinking? He still hadn't sped up, and he would never catch up with the thief at this pace. But Mr. Ambrose didn't seem to mind. He strode along the roof, his cane in his hand, his 6 men flanking him, as though nothing in the world could escape him. Getting to my feet, I hurried after them as quickly as I could. But it would be no use. They weren't going to hurry up, I could see that now, and I wasn't in the best condition for a chase, wearing a broken hoop skirt and bruises in various places. With a cry of triumph, Simmons jumped onto the next building. There was some sort of structure on top, the entrance to a staircase that led down onto the street. He would do it, he would get away. Then the men appeared. They appeared as sudden as could be, from behind chimneys, gables and bay windows. They stood between Simmons and his escape. As soon as he saw them, he froze. I didn't understand until I saw the giant turban-wearing figure right in the middle of the men, opposite Simmons. Kareem, the pack of wolves had cornered their prey. Catching up to Mr. Ambrose, I hissed in his ear, "You were planning this the whole time, weren't you? You sent Kareem up on the roof before we went in." "Yes. So why did you leave me stewing like this? Why didn't you tell me?" His face remained completely expressionless. I really can't think why I did that. I mean, you have always been so open and honest with me." "Oh ha, ha, ha." He threw a sideways glance at me and my hoop skirt, which now would have to be more appropriately described as a hexagonal skirt with severe sartorial malformation. "By the way, Mr. Linton, I like your new look. The dress looks exquisite on you. Those tears down the side and the broken whalebones. Quite haute couture, 26, I must say." "Thank you, sir," I hissed. If looks could only kill, he would be already decapitated right now. Up ahead, Simmons had turned around and was chasing back over the roofs. Apparently he had thrown a look back earlier and seen nobody following and now expected the way to be clear. When he caught sight of the 8 of us approaching, he stopped dead. Mr. Ambrose nodded to his 6 men. They stopped walking, just standing still and watching. He himself took a few more steps forward until only a few yards separated him from his prey. "Simmons," he said in a level tone. That was all, just the name. The thief looked around him with wild eyes, searching for a way to escape. But there was none. Then he looked down into the street. The few people who were walking down there in the fog had not looked up and noticed anything yet. They were totally oblivious to the goings-on far above their heads. Simmons opened his mouth. "I wouldn't do that," Mr. Ambrose warned. And there it was, that cool tone of superiority in his voice that solely belonged to old aristocracy. How come I had never noticed it before? With great effort, Simmons swallowed. His eyes darted to Mr. Ambrose, and away again. "Dee do what? You were going to call out." "Mr. Ambrose, I never. Do you remember what I said would happen to you if I heard one more lie from your lips?" The thin blonde man paled and took a step backwards. "Mr. Ambrose, sir, please." With a few bold steps, Mr. Ambrose stood in front of the quivering Simmons. He looked cold, hard, and implacable, a lord or even a king sitting in judgment over his traitorous subject. I didn't want to be in my predecessor's shoes right now. "The file, Simmons, where is it?" The intensity in his voice. Again, curiosity welled up in me as to the contents of that damned file. Maybe, if I asked Mr. Ambrose again. The other said nothing, but just continued to quiver where he stood. "Where is the file, Simmons?" No answer. "For the last time, where is the file?" Mr. Ambrose's voice had gotten colder as he spoke and now sounded sharp and dangerous as an iceberg. "You will give it to me, or maybe you cannot." His dark eyes widened a little. "The money on your bed. You have already been paid for your theft. You haven't got the file anymore. It is." Simmons dashed forward and tried to push past Mr. Ambrose. He grabbed the ex-secretary's arm and Simmons whirled around. His hand disappeared under his tailcoat for a moment and reappeared holding a short but wickedly sharp-looking sword. 27. I think I gave a shout or scream or something, I didn't really know. Everything happened in a blur of motion. The blade of Simmons' sword came up and would have stabbed Mr. Ambrose in the gut, but then it smashed against something I couldn't see, and a metallic sound rang out over the rooftops. Mr. Ambrose sprang back, holding his cane defensively in front of him. His wooden cane. But then what had made that metallic sound? Gripping its lower part with the left hand, Mr. Ambrose pulled at the hilt of his cane with the right, and a slim blade shot out of the hollow wood. He raised it in a defensive position and waited. Simmons came at him, giving a loud screech that sounded hardly human. Their blades met with a clang. Mr. Ambrose held him in that position, blade to blade. "You're finished, Simmons," he said, voice still perfectly cool. "Really?" Simmons grunted. "What makes you think you'll beat me?" "He does." Mr. Ambrose nodded to something behind Simmons. Before the ex-secretary could turn around, Kareem stepped up behind him and let the pommel of his saber come down on his head with a resounding thud. Simmons crumpled to the floor like a marionette whose strings had been cut. Simmons. Mr. Ambrose shook his head and looked down at the groaning man. "You really are a simpleton." Bending down, he pried the sword from Simmons' hand. That petty stash of money we found in your room, you should have asked 3 times as much. Considering the trouble you're in now, it would only have been appropriate. Grabbing Simmons by the neck, he hauled him to his feet and more or less hurled the man at Kareem, who caught him and delivered another blow to his head that knocked him clean unconscious. Let's go, Mr. Ambrose said. We're finished here. The unconscious ex-secretary slung over one shoulder, Kareem strode to the staircase entrance that Simmons had been heading for. Apparently, he and the other men had come up this way and had made preparations for coming down again, for when we had climbed down the stairs and left the building, a coach was waiting for us. Not a cab this time, but a real, large coach, with one of those discreetly dressed men, of which Warren seemed to have an infinite supply, sitting on the box. The coach was parked directly in front of the entrance, so nobody could see us as we climbed inside. I glanced at Mr. Ambrose. Or was he more than just a Mr.? Images whirled through my head. A noble crest, a suitcase full of money, flashing swords. You should have asked 3 times as much. Heavens above, what could be worth that much money? What would be worth the risk of betraying this man? What an extravagant vehicle, I remarked, trying to dispel my dark thoughts. I'm quite surprised that you would use something as expensive as this. I did a cost-benefit analysis, he replied, dryly, pointing to Simmons' limp body. And I decided the benefit of not getting thrown into prison for abduction was worth the cost of a coach. Very wise, sir. Agreed, Mr. Linton. Pull down the blinds. I rolled my eyes. You could at least say please. I could, if I wanted to. Now pull down the blinds. The coach had dark blinds on all windows. Once they were pulled down, the interior was quite sinister. It brought back what I had seen on the roof, or at least what I had thought I had seen. Had Mr. Ambrose really pulled a sword on Simmons? What kind of man was he to carry a concealed weapon in his cane? What kind of man was he to deny a noble title? The same questions, over and over again. No, that wasn't quite true. There was one new question I had, and one I didn't feel quite so apprehensive about voicing. What was all that about? I wanted to know. That chasing him over the rooftops. Why didn't we just grab him there in the room? Mr. Ambrose didn't look at me. Instead, he kept his dark eyes fixed on the unconscious Simmons. But he replied, in his usual curt tone, to make things easier for us. I don't understand. How is having to chase him over the rooftops making things easier for us? Apparently not in the mood to give lengthy explanations, Mr. Ambrose waved to his hired henchman. Warren cleared his throat. It's easier because if we had brought him out through the hotel's front entrance, or tried to drag him out of the window by force, he would have screamed for help. The guests or hotel staff would have heard and called the police. This way, he attempted to flee, believing that there was still a chance to make a quiet escape. We caught him without anyone being able to interfere. Ah, slowly I nodded. I see. Mr. Ambrose nodded, too. Exactly. And now, he took a deep breath. If he were capable of something like emotion, I could have sworn it sounded satisfied. Now I can deal with him as I see fit. Deal with him as I see fit. The sentence reverberated in the air with dark promise. Mr. Ambrose raised his cane and knocked against the roof of the coach. Take us to Empire House, he called to the driver. The back entrance. We have something to deposit safely in the cellar. The cellar. What did he want to put in the CO? My eyes flicked to Simmons. Of course. Unbidden, something I had once read in one of my father's old history books flooded into my mind. What did earls and lords do when they discovered a traitor among their men? If I remembered correctly, after prolonged torture in some dark dungeon, the traitor in question would be hanged, drawn and quartered. Oh my God, if Mr. Ambrose really was an aristocrat, I fervently hoped he wasn't one to keep up old traditions. Making Lieutenant Pancake. My ear pressed against the solid metal door, I listened intently for any sound of torture. Not that I knew exactly what torture would sound like, apart from the screaming, of course, which was pretty much a given. Still, it couldn't hurt to try. Not me, at least, I thought with a tiny shiver. Considering Mr. Ambrose's words, and even more than that the expression of his eyes, I had no doubt that something terrible was happening in there right now. But I couldn't hear a single sound. Was something the matter with my ears? But then I suddenly heard footsteps approaching from the other side and hurriedly stepped backwards. A key turned in the lock, and Mr. Ambrose exited the room, a ring with a large assortment of keys in his hand. And, I asked, God, I was becoming as monosyllabic as he. We've managed to get him awake, but he won't talk. Looking down, I saw that Mr. Ambrose's hand was clenched to a fist around the ring of keys. Whoever paid him to do this, they must be powerful and frightening. How do you know this? He fixed me with his steely dark gaze. Because I am powerful and frightening, and he hasn't told me a single thing yet. But he will, eventually. How do you know that? How can you be so sure? Yet those thoughts were not what I spoke out loud. Instead, out spilled the question that had been plaguing me the entire way back to Empire House, the question which I never thought I would have the gall to ask. Will you torture him? He looked at me, supreme disdain in his eyes. No, of course not. A momentous weight, which I hadn't really known was there, dropped from my shoulders. Thank the Lord, I breathed. I almost thought. Why would I sully my own hands? He continued, cutting me off. I have people who attend to tasks like that for me. Oh. The weight slammed right back in place. My mood swing had apparently gone completely unnoticed. He motioned towards the closed steel door behind him with a careless finger. I have put Kareem in charge of the investigation, and he has his methods. Methods like what? I demanded. Darn, this was frightening. Something inside me told me I should report this to the police. But if I did that, I would end up on Mr. Ambrose's list of traitors, barring all chances of my independence. I was too selfish to risk my entire future on behalf of some greedy little thief I didn't know from Adam. All right, I know I'm not a very good person, but at least I'll get paid for it soon. Mr. Ambrose still hadn't answered. He was looking at me intently. Methods like what? I repeated the question. That's nothing a lady such as yourself needs to concern yourself about. Oh, I'm a lady now, am I? Currently, it looks like it, Mr. Ambrose said, gesturing towards my disheveled dress. More or less, at least. It's high time that you got back into your trousers though, Mr. Linton. I narrowed my eyes. Why, do you have work for me, sir? No, I'm sending you home early. I was about to protest when he raised his hands. I know, I agreed. He paused to take a deep breath and with effort said, I agreed to let you work for me, just like any other private secretary. This is not an attempt to get rid of you early. I'm giving you half the day off because you've had an exhausting day so far. Trust me, even if you don't notice it now, you'll notice once the excitement of the hunt goes away. You need to rest, and I need to stay with Kareem for a bit longer, so right now I don't have anything for you to do. Tomorrow you will come back, and you will work for me as hard as anybody else. For a moment I searched his face, trying to determine whether or not he was being truthful. Of course it didn't work. Not with his standard stony expression. Promise? I asked. He nodded. I promise on my honor as a gentleman. But, I hesitated before asking the question. But I'll still have to come dressed up as a man. Yes, his voice was as hard as granite. I cannot and will not accept a female secretary. I will not be made a fool of in front of the entire city. Either you come dressed as a man, or you never return. I nodded. This was hard for me to accept, but it was unavoidable. I turned to leave, but Mr. Ambrose called me back, and so I turned again. What is it, sir? You know very well what it is. I want to know. Want to know what? Your method, of course. Well. What method? What are you talking about? I asked, truly bewildered. A muscle in his jaw twitched in an annoyed sort of way. Don't play games with me. How did you do it? Find out where Simmons was. Ah, that was what was eating him. I struggled mightily to constrain my grin but probably failed. How about a deal? I said. I tell you my method, and you tell me what's in the stolen file. His silence was answer enough. Once again, I saw that mountain of money in front of my inner eye. And he had said it was too little payment. I won't tell a soul, I said. I promise. No, he shot a glare at me. I don't have to make any deals with you. You work for me. You will tell me how you did it. Now. I hesitated. Well. I told him everything, with probably a bit more embellishment and gloating than necessary, but accurately enough. It had worked after all, hadn't it? There was no harm in taking pride in my work. When I was finished, his stony face was even stonier than before, but his eyes were slightly wider as he gazed at me, and his mouth stood open a fraction. Still sure you don't want a female secretary? I asked. Then, before he could answer, I curtsied and hurried away. Asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk I had decided to change back into men's clothes in my office. It would mean that I would have to change again when I came home, but under no circumstances could I go home in the dress Mr. Ambrose had bought for me. None of my family had ever clapped eyes on it before, and besides, it wasn't in very great shape. I was a bit concerned about changing in my office. After all, I couldn't lock the doors, so what if anybody came in? But there really wasn't anywhere else to go. As it turned out, my concern was totally unnecessary. On the desk in my office I found a small package. A note was pinned to it, saying, Dear Mr. Linton. Mr. Ambrose instructed me to leave these for you. A friendly word of caution. It is very unusual for his secretary to be entrusted with these around the clock. Take good care of them. Yours sincerely. Edgar Stone. My curiosity spiked. What was in there? Well, there was only one way to find out. I ripped open the paper around the package, and in a little cardboard box I found a ring of keys, not as large as the one Mr. Ambrose had been carrying but still substantial. On it hung a key labeled Secretary's Office and another labeled Head Office. Slowly, a smile spread over my face. He trusted nobody. Well, maybe he was making an exception to the rule. Then I noticed that there was no key labeled safe on the ring. Well, it seemed as though he was starting to trust me, at least. But then, why was he still refusing to reveal the contents of the file? I stood there, clutching the set of keys to my chest, feeling oddly emotional. Why, though, why should it matter to me whether or not my master trusted me? He was just the man I was working for, a man who had yet to pay me my first wages at the end of the month. Whether or not he trusted me was immaterial, as long as I got the money, right? Yet still, the fact that he was opening up to me touched something deep within me. I felt that maybe, just maybe, he might be starting to respect me. If not as a woman, then at least as an intelligent human being with a head on its shoulders, provided I wore trousers. Taking the ring of keys, I locked both doors to my office and started the mind-numbing process of changing. You don't think there's anything more difficult than getting out of a corset and crinoline? Try getting out of a corset and crinoline which are broken and bent in strange angles in at least a dozen places. I felt like a cat trying to squeeze myself through a labyrinth of rat holes. When I finally stood only in my underwear, it was a relief. I was just about to reach for Uncle Bufford's trousers when a knock came from the door, and the door rattled as someone pushed against it. I almost jumped out of my skin. Why yes, I asked, not sounding very manly at all. I cleared my throat and tried again. Yes. Mr. Linton, it's me, Mr. Stone. May I come in? Not as such, no. Why, are you busy? No, I'm standing around in women's underwear, which, apart from being pretty indecent, makes it more or less obvious that I'm a girl. Yes, that's it. Very busy. Very, very, very busy in fact. I see. Well then, I won't disturb you any further. I just wanted to ask if you found the keys all right. Yes, I did. Yes, I did, thank God, or else my office door wouldn't be locked right now, and you'd be staring at me in my drawers. Very well, I understand you're leaving now, Mr. Linton. Yes. And Mr. Ambrose. He's very, very busy, too, Mr. Stone. I see. Well, I'll leave you alone then. Till tomorrow. Yes, goodbye, Mr. Stone. I heard him moving away and let out the breath I had been holding. I'm not sure what Mr. Ambrose's reaction would be to someone discovering my true gender, but he wouldn't be jumping up and down with joy, that much I could tell. Maybe he would be jumping up and down on me instead, wearing iron-shod boots. Though he probably would shrink from such a display of emotion. He would get Kareem to do it. The big fellow would be excellently suited for the task and all too happy to oblige. For some reason, the thought brought a smile to my face. Grabbing Uncle Bufford's trousers, I dressed in my unusually usual outfit again and left the office, locking the door behind me. Not that I thought somebody might steal my fountain pen, it just was a good feeling. My space, my door, my key. Stuffing the keys securely into my deepest pocket, I began the long descent down to street level. I didn't call a cab. Luxuries like that would have to wait until I actually received my first paycheck. Instead, I walked home slowly, enjoying for the first time in my life the feeling I had done something useful. No sitting around trying to knit or sew, no silly whirling around in a ballroom full of overdressed nitwits. I had been out there in the real, rough world, and I would return there soon. My exultation lasted all the way home. As I went in through the garden door and into the shed to change, slowly my feelings of joy waned and I suppressed a yawn. God, my legs hurt from all that running over roofs. The real world was pretty tiring. As I approached the front door, another concentrated wave of tiredness hit me. Mr. Ambrose had been right. Today had been exhausting. I needed some rest, and I needed it quick. Fortunately, nothing was likely to get in the way of that. My aunt was sure to be too busy with my other sisters to care if I was lazy and slept through the afternoon. That was when I first heard the excited chatter from inside the house. Strange. It sounded like we had a visitor. But who would come to visit us? I had to be mistaken. The moment I stepped into the house, though, the door to the salon flew open and my aunt appeared in the doorway. There she is, she exclaimed, a triumphant smile on her face. And just in time. Lily, my dear, I have a wonderful surprise for you. Oh, that didn't sound good. What surprise? I yawned, and blinked furiously to keep my eyes open. Look who has come to visit you, my aunt replied smiling, and waved invitingly to somebody in the room. Footsteps could be heard, and then, directly beside my aunt's triumphant visage, appeared the arrogantly smiling face of Lieutenant Ellingham. He bowed. Miss Linton, how delighted I am to see you again. I straightened, and my eyes narrowed. His arrogant smile widened. Delighted? Hey, we'll see whether you still feel like that in 5 minutes, Mr. Asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk. Single quote ellipsis. Killed every last one of the savages with my own hands. They were fearsome enemies, but my superior fighting skills struck fear into their hearts which they could not overcome. Lieutenant Ellingham thumped his chest theatrically. At last, only the big grey beast was left, and so I charged forward and stuck my saber right into its belly. It collapsed dead on the spot. The lieutenant finished his narration with a flourish of the arm, simulating a saber thrust. Marvelous, simply marvelous. My aunt, Maria, Anne and Lisbeth applauded enthusiastically, and even Ella moved her hands together a bit, though by no means so forcefully that it could actually be heard. What an impeccable display of courage, Anne proclaimed, fluttering her eyelashes at the lieutenant. To think that you all alone went up against a raiding party of 21 savages, and charged such a terrifying monster as an elephant. This is the kind of bravery that made the British Empire what it is today. Yes, really amazing, I yawned. The lieutenant raised an eyebrow. Praise from you, Miss Linton. That is a rare gift indeed. Thank you very much. I am delighted to hear you appreciate my bravery in the face of danger. I had to work hard to keep a smirk off my face. That's not really what I was talking about. I think it's amazing that you're sitting here alive. That is due to his bravery, Maria pointed out, which the lieutenant acknowledged with a graceful bow of the head. More to a miracle, I disagreed. You stabbed the elephant into its belly. From below. Yes, the lieutenant's voice was suddenly cautious. I had to say that up to this point the conversation had rather bored me. But now I was enjoying myself. You see, that's what I find so amazing, I mused. The elephant collapsed, and you were standing right underneath. Yet you are sitting here alive on our couch and are not flattened to some part of the Indian soil as Lieutenant Pancake. Well, the elephant fell to the side. To the side, I asked sweetly, onto the savages that you were still busy fighting off. Yes. The ones you said you had already killed before the elephant attacked. Be silent, child, my aunt chided me. Then, turning to Lieutenant Ellingham, she continued, you must excuse my niece, sir. She has led a very sheltered life and knows little of the ways of the world. Certainly she is totally inexperienced in such manly activities as you have described. He nodded graciously. That is no problem, madam. Maybe, he said, throwing a suggestive glance in my direction, I could show her a few manly activities. Then she would not be so ignorant anymore. I thought I was going to be sick. Which brings me to the point of my visit, Lieutenant Ellingham continued, rising and extending his hand to me. Which is to inquire whether Miss Lillian Linton would wish to go for a walk with me. There is a beautiful park outside your house, and I am sure there are some things she has not seen there before. There were various possible answers to that. Oh yes, of course there are things I haven't seen yet in the park. I've only lived here for over a decade of my life. Or, hey, you can talk to me directly, you know, I'm right here in the room. Or better yet, go for a walk with you. I'd rather go for a walk with a drunken French sailor. But then I saw my aunt's face over the lieutenant's shoulder and decided on the more diplomatic. I don't know. I think I know my way around the park pretty well already. But thanks for the offer. That is no matter, he said, waving my answer away. It is not the park I wished to see when coming here, but you. It is not the lush green trees I wish to enjoy, but your company, Miss Linton. Ugh, so much for diplomacy. He extended his hand farther. Over his shoulder my aunt glared at me, promising death and destruction if I made the wrong choice now. Wasn't there any way to get out of this? Then I thought, come on, it's only a walk. It's not like he's asking you to marry him. Well, not yet anyway. What harm can a walk do? Preferring not to think about the answer to that question, I took his hand and faked as believable a smile as possible. I would be delighted to take a walk through the park, I told him, neglecting to mention that the same wasn't true for having him along as company. He took my hand. It felt moist and alien. Holding it was a repellent feeling, like having a bug crawl up your arm. But I smiled bravely as I let him lead me out of the room. At least this would keep my aunt happy. As we left the room, I couldn't help a thought shooting through my head. How very, very different this hand felt from that of Mr. Rickard Ambrose. Asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk asterisk tilde asterisk tilde asterisk. And I was standing there, you see. 200 feet away from the Indian, and even farther away from the young lady he was running towards, knife in hand. I knew I couldn't reach him or her in time, yet I also knew that I was a crack shot. Personally, I would have called him a crackpot rather than crack shot. I was walking beside Lieutenant Ellingham through Green Park. His promise to show me new spots in the park was long forgotten. He was far too busy entertaining me with stories of his supposed adventures in India. So far, he had killed about 379 so-called savages, 13 elephants, 5 lions and 1 giraffe. Quietly I wondered whether he actually thought me stupid enough to believe above 1 word in 10. I took out my rifle, aimed, and bam. He lay dead on the ground, shot through the heart. The medicine man of his tribe had never seen a gunshot before. So he and all the other Indians believed I was a god of some sort and freed the young lady when I commanded it. Excuse me, I interrupted. Medicine man, tribe, I thought you were talking about Indians that live in India, not the kind that live in America. Only those have medicine men, or tribes. Oh, really? The lieutenant shrugged. Well, maybe he was on holiday in India. These savages are strange people, you know. I can think of some that are even stranger, I muttered, but he either didn't hear it or wasn't very well versed in sarcasm. After that, he didn't start telling any adventure stories again. Well, he had talked for the last half hour pretty much non-stop. Maybe it was time I contributed something to the conversation. But what could I say apart from, you may have a square jaw and a whitewashed smile, but you are the most odious man I ever met. Get the hell away from me right now, because I never ever wish to see you again. And by the way, I don't like you, and you smell funny. The face of doom, otherwise known as the face of my aunt, appeared in front of my inner eye, staring at me ferociously. Oh well, I guess I could at least make a tiny effort to be civil. You seem to have led a very exciting life so far. Rescuing ladies, shooting Indians, must be fun. I mean the rescuing of ladies, not the other part. He sighed like a wise, worldly man talking to a silly student. Actually, the shooting is the part that is more fun. The ladies get tiresome over time. They're always so overwhelmed by thankfulness. So many ladies have shown interest in me that I have really grown tired of what is called the fair sex. Oh well, if that is so, you're probably very tired of my society. I jumped at the opportunity. I should leave you immediately. On the contrary, shaking his head, he turned to me with an arrogant grin on his face. It is that fact that made me come to you. What? You're so unlike the other ladies, he continued. Other ladies sigh and whimper to get a man's attention. You on the other hand, you are feisty. You insult me and push me back, but I've figured you out. It's your way of saying you're attracted to a man. What the? It's no great surprise, I suppose. He took a step closer to me, his eyes gleaming with some dark emotion that made me shiver all over. I remembered my earlier thoughts about what could possibly happen on a walk in the park, and the unwelcome idea occurred to me that I might be about to find out firsthand. I didn't like the expression on his face, not at all. He no longer looked like the pleasant, if slightly arrogant, young man of a few minutes ago. He now looked like a very, very nasty, arrogant young man. And his eyes were fixed on me. Desperately I looked around for anybody, but we were standing hidden behind a clump of trees. No help was in sight. You've had no proper upbringing, aren't even a proper lady, he was saying. But that actually could make you quite fun, you know. Ladies are very restrained, but I'm sure you would be more open to amusement. Taking another step forward, he leaned towards me. I didn't even know where it came from. My hand just seemed to appear out of thin air and make contact with his cheek. Slap. Don't you dare touch me, I snarled. I thought maybe he would be angry, or he would back off. Instead, he laughed. That's what I'm talking about, he chuckled, his eyes dancing. It's really been getting annoying, so many girls throwing themselves at me because of my good looks and my position as an officer. You're different. A challenge. I'll give you a challenge if you don't back off, I threatened, raising my hand again. Taking a leisurely step backwards, he cocked his head. Plus, you're from a good family. Most of those stuck-up mothers at Sir Philip's ball wouldn't have let a poor soldier like myself near one of the daughters. But your aunt, I think she'd be happy if she could convince a beggar to take you. If I made you mine, she'd be delighted, and so would I. Granted, you don't have money, and neither does your family, so the dowry won't be worth marrying for, but in the military a good name is more often of greater worth. You have that, so you'll suit me admirably. The only thing that remains is for me to make it official. Official? What are you talking about? Why, marrying you of course. My eyeballs almost dropped out of my head. Marriage? I'm not getting married to anybody, and most certainly not to you. He sneered. What, you'd prefer a covert thing between us? I wondered whether that might be more your style. Covert thing? What kind of covert thing? The glint in his eyes told he was talking about something dark, something far less innocent than my little sister's secret meetings in the back garden. I had no idea what exactly and, honestly, I didn't want to find out. But I'm afraid I can't help you there, he continued. I'm a gentleman and unfortunately have to behave as such. I shall have to wait until we are married before I can start taming you. Go now, I said, making my voice icy in my best imitation of Rickard Ambrose. Right now, or I will scream until the entire city of London comes running. He hesitated, then shrugged. Very well, just as you like. The bastard had the audacity to wink at me. But I will get you, make no mistake. And you know you'll enjoy it when I do. I wondered whether there were smaller, feminine versions of that handy cane sword that Mr. Ambrose had used the other day. If so, I was going to buy myself one with my very first paycheck. Occasions like this required a weapon more effective than a parasol. Who do you think you are? I hissed at him. You can't just say such things to me. Who the hell do you think you are? He raised an arrogant eyebrow. I am your suitor. My what? Your suitor. I want you, and I'm going to get you one way or another. No you won't. Not when I tell my family what you dared to say to me. Oh really? His eyebrow wandered up another inch. I have witnessed how very, dear you are to your aunt. Whom do you think she will believe? Bright, brilliant young Lieutenant Ellingham, or a niece who can't even behave herself properly at her first ball? He raised his hat to me and made a slight, mocking bow. Good day to you, Miss Linton. I look forward to seeing you again. And he walked away.